All right, let's talk about salt. Salt you need for running and for life. In regular life, you don't need to take extra salt. Most people have too much. And you even see where they talk about people having swelling in their hands and feet from too much salt. This will happen when you're older if you have a very poor diet. And this is confusing for people running 100 milers because they think, oh, my hands got puffy. It's too much salt. You're wrong, it's not. But I'm going to explain why because it is confusing. A person who chronically has too much salt day in, day out slowly builds up too much in their bloodstream. And if they're older and their kidneys are not getting rid of that salt reliably enough, which they should and usually do, then that person can begin to retain water from it and get hypertension. If you're a person who has hypertension, you have a high blood pressure, you are getting medical treatment, go talk to your doctor. It's dangerous. You could get a stroke and die. Most of us do not have blood pressure problems as runners. A lot of us actually have a low blood pressure. And if you do, salt is, you're going to have to stay on top of it in your racing. Okay, so why would your hands get puffy with low salt? I'm going to explain. Your blood has to be the right percent salt. If it's not, you die. It's a very narrow range. When you read research that says these people were not low on salt, that research is measuring percent in the blood. You think, well, that's good, right? So I don't need it. It's my body regulates it correctly. Well, to a point. And then if you're only going to exercise and sweat for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, I barely worry about this in 50Ks. Some people do have to already at that distance. 25K, meh, run. So if you don't have enough salt inside you because you've actually depleted your salt and you're covered in this white crust, you can feel it on your face, your body will also lessen the amount of water in your blood. Okay? Because then your percent's correct and you don't die. Your body does this by pushing the water out of your blood. If you are sweating very slowly, if you're in regular life, your body does it through your kidneys. They regulate that. They're very good at it. It's their job. So you could expect to suddenly have a lot of clear pee. And you're thinking, running along. It's been hours and hours. I thought I wasn't hydrating well. Just peed tons. I haven't looked at it. You should actually look at your pee because if your pee starts getting progressively darker, you got a problem too. But a whole bunch of clear pee is your body pushing water out of itself, okay, because it doesn't have enough salt. And sometimes your hands will suddenly swell up. For me, that will happen in cold because it's cold, but it will also happen in hot weather if I don't get enough salt. They'll just start to puff up. I won't even be able to close them all the way. And I've learned that it's an early warning sign I need more salt. And that's my body pushing water into my tissues. So your blood volume is getting lower, though. There's not as much blood inside of you. This is very, very bad. The arteries in your body can actually close down and limit where the blood goes because if your brain doesn't get enough blood, if you don't get enough up to your head, you're going to pass out. If you don't get enough blood flow to your heart, it's going to stop. That's very bad. And then things like your liver and kidneys that are very essential to your ongoing life, those are still going to get blood flow. Your legs that you're using are probably going to maintain blood flow pretty well because you won't sit down and stop using them. So when there's not enough blood to go around, your arteries that go to your intestines, those will shut off in order to keep blood going everywhere else. When that happens, the little muscle ring at the end of your stomach that connects your stomach to your intestines, it will shut. Stuff doesn't just pour from your stomach into your intestines. Your body actually has a little ring of muscle, just like your butthole, but that you can't control, and it will shut. And so you'll drink things and they will just slosh in your stomach and you will get increasingly nauseous. And eventually you will projectile puke them back out of your stomach. And this happens in running hundreds when you don't have enough blood volume. Very, very bad. You can take this capsule that is a salt pill and swallow it, but it has to actually, the capsule has to break down, and then the powder that's inside it has to get in your intestines and then absorb through your intestines into your bloodstream and go through your circulation in order for you to get better. But that muscle ring at the end of your stomach has shut everything off. You're at puke level nauseous. So this is not going to do much good if you swallow it. This, by the way, is Salt Stick. I like this brand. We're about to review why. But there are other brands. They're all acceptable. Do read the amount of sodium in them just to be aware because, for example, Hammer has a lot less sodium. Succeed caps have more. I feel like they chemical burn my mouth. Why does that matter? Okay, so again, if I swallow this capsule, It's not going to do much good. So I can pull this capsule apart, although I usually would just bite the end off. And I can, the powder, delicious tasting. And this is very powdery. It's if you just bite into the capsule inside your mouth, which I actually like to do, God, that's salty. Powder can explode everywhere. Make sure your mouth's wet. Make sure you have your water bottle out. But so this powder can actually absorb inside my mouth. Some of it is going into my bloodstream right now. I didn't swallow it. It's absorbing. Sugar can do that. There's glucose in a tube for giving a diabetic who's on insulin who has passed out because they took too much insulin and they're going to die of insulin shock. You can put sugar under their tongue when they're not even conscious, and it will get in their bloodstream and bring them back around to where you can get them to eat. Cocaine absorbs through that kind of absorption also. Don't use cocaine. Very bad. You can have a sudden heart attack. You have Ultra running for an addiction now. Ah, it's salty. So I can tell by the taste that right now, I don't really need this. There's enough salt inside of me. But I promise you that this would actually taste much better, I know from experience, if I was low on salt. So that's one way. You can actually put the salt directly in your mouth. Bryce Canyon, maybe. Yeah. My hand swelled up suddenly, and I ran out of everything, and everything was sloshing in my stomach. And I was not even well-oriented coming into the aid station. Like, they could tell my balance was off. I couldn't make words right. So swollen. I had to do that with about 6 capsules and just little sips of water. Those just put them under my tongue. That's how I know the Succeed caps will almost chemical burn you. I can actually tell by taste which one I have usually. That's also why I don't like the Salt Stick Pluses. They contain caffeine. I'm a big fan of separating your different products from each other. I don't think you should mix caffeine in with them because what if you need to take a bunch and also caffeine tastes bitter as heck. All right, which brings us around to another salt thing. If you have low blood volume because you don't have enough salt, you cannot regulate temperature of your body. You will overheat and you will also get hypothermia much more easily. So you might have shivery hypothermia at 64 degrees, but be overheated at 72 degrees. Your comfort range is very, very narrow when your blood volume is low. You need to keep your blood volume up. Yes, in regular life, trying to pump up your blood volume is going to cause extra water in your tissues and high blood pressure. Don't do that. Ultra running is not regular life. And also, there's only so much salt you can absorb per day. If you have a normal, healthy blood pressure, you're not going to suddenly absorb too much. If you actually were to take several tablespoons of salt, whole bottle of salt, it's going to just pass right through you. You may give yourself diarrhea, but it would take a lot of doing. But you're very, very unlikely to successfully get your body to absorb so much salt you cause yourself a health problem. Please don't try. But it would be that entire bottle of salt pills, and you're going to get sick from those before that's going to happen. So this brings us to the next thing. Let's say everything's sloshing. Salt pills, there's 215 milligrams of sodium in here, and I'm only going to get so much of it in me, and your body may react to some of the other ingredients. So this is a baggie containing pink Himalayan sea salt. I like the pink better. This contains 2,300 milligrams of sodium per teaspoon. So this right here equals 22 of those capsules worth of salt. And it's very, very little, and it's very easy to carry. I can eat the salt directly, but if you get the projectile pukes, this is a magic trick. I swear I've done this, and I've righted myself and just shocked medical. If you get horribly, horribly ill, get the cup of Coke, or the cup they make you carry. Pretend this has Coke in it up to right here. Take the baggie of salt. Just put about that much in. It's not a lot. Watch it foam, which it will. Swirl it around to make sure the salt's really in there. Drink the Coke. Wait about 5 minutes. Repeat. You almost always have to repeat if you were actually sick. If you're doing this like more as a prevention and you're not sure but salt tastes really good and you're craving it, you ate one of the potato chips and you're like, oh, that salt's good. When salt starts tasting really, really good, you almost want to lick your arm to get don't do it if you have sunblock on your arm, because the salt even on your own sweat tastes good. I know, gross, but these are the things that happen in hundreds. Then go ahead and do this prophylactically. But if you've actually started to get sick and you can feel the stuff sloshing, repeat. Possibly a third time, or else check again at the next aid station. Super, super important. If you have actually hit aid and just knees hit the chest, projectile puked everything on your effort to hydrate yourself, or out on the trail and then limped into aid, you need to lie perfectly. If you get projectile pukes and it's hot, lie perfectly still on the ground. Put your hands on your stomach. Do not let medical get you up. Do not do anything. 5 minutes. Put your hands over your stomach to calm yourself and lie flat on your back and don't move for 5 minutes. It's crazy how well this works. I've had to do this. 1 year I heard I had to do this, and I had to do this at Scout Mountain over this summer. And both times I was able to finish. Both times this was around halfway in the middle of the afternoon, and I was so overheated. I was red. I was barely sweating properly. I tried to rehydrate, and my entire stomach just spasmed and everything went out. Like knees hit the chest, I hit the ground, couldn't stand up. And both times some very well-meaning medical person tried to get me up and to go sit in a chair. Don't. As long as there's some shade, as long as it's not freezing out, lie perfectly still and do not move for 5 minutes. Then do the salt and the Coke trick. Medical is shocked when 15 minutes later you're like, oh, I can drink things, stomach's on, I'm good, I'm leaving, have a wonderful day. Again, remember, you can put the salt in the Coke, you can eat the salt in your mouth, the salt will absorb. Just taking capsules is not going to help. And I have no idea why this is, but sometimes I'll take one of those capsules every 3 or 4 hours and never need to resort to this. I'll taste a little bit at some point and go, still tastes real salty, I'm fine. Other races, the temperatures are similar. I feel like my sweat rate is similar, and yet I'll have horrible problems. 1 year I heard I had no salt trouble. 1 year I did. Weather was comparable. Both times I was able to get to the finish, but it varies. That's why you carry backups. Be prepared. And remember, when it's cold out, if you go into the night with low blood volume because your salt is low, you will get hypothermia so damn easily. You'll be shivering. You will not be able to get warm because you don't have enough blood in you. It's scary, actually, if it's cold out and you just can't get rid of that shivery. You have to have enough blood in you. So even if it's cold, if you're getting shivery and you feel like just overly shivery as evening's coming, especially if it's been warm in the day, but even if it hasn't, just go ahead and do this. You're not going to take a half teaspoon of salt and some Coke and give yourself a stroke in the middle of a race if you are an otherwise healthy person. You're not going to suddenly develop high blood pressure because of that. It's going to be fine. People do this every day by eating McDonald's twice in one day. They get that amount of sodium and they probably eventually die of it. But, you're going to sweat it out. You're going to be fine. So that is everything you need to know about salt. 2x2 Ziplocs can be ordered on the interwebs. That's what this is. I just like the convenient case to carry it in. It's so small, it's hard for it to pop open. I've tried snack Ziplocs. They can open up in your pocket. This I've never had trouble with. All right, so that's everything about salt. Have a wonderful day.